What's up guys, this is Dark Magician here and welcome to another KOF video. Okay, so for global there was a debate whether which API was gonna appear next. Now some were suggesting Magaki, others were saying Instinct might appear, and there were actually rumors that Elizabeth might appear. But after all, yeah, Magaki was the one that was released in global. Especially because, you know, global follows the Taiwan server, and in Taiwan Magaki appeared before Instinct Iori. Okay, so today's video will be a character introduction for Magaki. Okay guys, so as you know, Magaki is an API 15 tank. Now looking at his stats, we can see that he has a quite good block rate at 35.45%, which is quite good. Other stats are normal somehow. We have the resistance, which is okay, like 26%, so pretty much like any other tank. Now his feature is called Evil Manipulators because he can confuse targets. Okay, so we will be explaining this feature later on. Now first let's start with the fates. We have the first one, Evil Consciousness. We need Magaki, Chang, Orochi and Rugal, increase attack by 25%. Remote Team Leader, we need Magaki, Psyche and Mukai, increase HP by 25%. And Demonize, we need Magaki, Orochi, Chris, Iori and Leona, increase HP by 25%. So you can see that we have two fates that are quite easy to unlock. I'm sure at this stage pretty much everybody had unlocked Rugal and Orochi. But you know, the second fate is quite hard to unlock because it needs 3 API 15s. Okay, so his weapon, Remote Power, and he uses Gale Badge and Kickboxing Top. Now let's go to his fight soul. His fight soul is called Phantom Bear Soul. Now what does it mean? It means that he gets 115 initial rage, which is a characteristic of a wild bear soul, and he recovers some rage when attacked, which is a characteristic of a tortoise soul. So somehow his fight soul is a hybrid between wild bear and tortoise. Okay, especially because he's a tank, so it's good that he has a tortoise component in his fight soul. Now let's start with his passive, Spacial Temporal Distortion. Now decrease all enemies attack. We've seen this passive in many fighters like Orochi, Leona, Mai, Orochi, Shermie and Ash. Now pretty much for all enemies it's only Magaki and Ash up to this point. Of course later on there will be also Elizabeth and Tung, which will have the same passive. But it doesn't stack. The point is that it doesn't stack with them. So if you have Magaki and somebody else of them, only one of those passives will be activated. He also increases own 20% defense, and he gets 5 defense for every attack received. It can stack up to 6 times as a maximum. So after receiving 6, every time an opponent hits Magaki up to 6 times, he will get additional 5% defense. So at maximum he can get additional 30% defense and add to those 20% defense. So he will gain 50% defense from this passive, which is very high. Now when Magaki dies, he will permanently decrease killer's 50% attack rate, resistance rate and rage regeneration. Now we've seen this passive or this curse with Iji, right? So yeah, he has the same passive. After he dies, he will curse this debuff on the enemy. Okay, it will have of course a huge effect on bosses, and he is immune to confusion. Confusion is the new type of CC that is conferred by Magaki and Elizabeth later on. So he is immune to confusion and immune to debuff in round 1. In round 1 you can't debuff him in any way. Okay, so at level 1 he decreases all enemies 10% attack, and of course this value will increase as we level this skill, this passive up. Now moving to his minor skill, Blast Ball, attack a column, recovering 2 times of own defense worth of HP. So he will recover HP depending of his defense, such that the value of the recovered HP is equal to 2 times of his defense, which is quite good. Hiccup is also the front target debuff onto the column's rear target. So he delivers the debuff made on the front target to the back row target, such that if the front row target was, for example, silenced, so the back row target will be silenced as well, or any other debuff. Okay, exceptions are the petrification and the curse made by Iji and Magaki. These two debuffs can't be passed from the front rower to the back rower. Okay, he also dispels the front target buff. So if the front row target had any buffs made, so he will cleanse those buffs. And if no skills, well, if Magaki had no skill in the previous round, skill is guaranteed in the next round. So he will be doing his skill very often. Okay, so it's quite a good skill. Before we start with the ultimate, we have his second passive, which permanently increase on attack and HP. Now it says damage and HP here. I think the translation isn't accurate. Okay, but either case, it just includes attack and HP. Now his ultimate, or cosmic distortion, we all know it as the Muda Da Da. Yeah, we all do. So attack 3 random enemies and increase on 20% damage and resistance rate. And there is a 50% chance to confuse the target. Okay, now 50% is quite a high value, okay, and he can apply this to 3 random enemies. Now, the confused target cannot use ultimate or skill and can only attack Magaki. Now, no matter where Magaki is placed in the team, the target or the confused target will attack him, either way. So, Magaki will copy its attacker's buff made after receiving an attack. So, if the confused target, of course, the confused target will attack Magaki, and Magaki will benefit from all the buffs made by the attacker. It's somehow like he copies them. Okay, and if the target is not confused after being attacked, will deal 2 times additional damage based on Magaki's defense. So upon doing the ultimate, Magaki can either confuse the target, or if the target is not confused, he will take additional 2 times damage based on his defense. Okay, now the fewer total fighters remaining, the higher the damage, like Kula, like Mukai, I remember. So yeah, maximum of 100%. And effects are of course increased after awakening and will absorb HP from confused target. Now, confused target that will hit Magaki, this will make him recover some HP. I think we're gonna talk about the weapon later on. Okay guys, so those were the major skills for Magaki. Now we're gonna go to the KOF'98 app to talk about his gates, and then as usual we're gonna get back to the game to talk about his placement in the team, in which teams he can perform well, and of course give some ideas about his rune sets. Okay guys, so we're here at the KOF'98 app to talk about the gates for Magaki. Now before we start with the gates, we also have his awakened weapon, but sadly the information isn't here on the app. But we've talked about it before. They mentioned that the confused target, when he hits Magaki, this will make Magaki recover some HP after awakening the weapon. And I suppose there might be like a small addition in the numbers for the ultimate, but yeah, that's pretty much everything about the awakened weapon. So let's start first with the second gate, or his passive. Now we mentioned earlier that he increased on 20% defense. Well, this value increases to 25% defense, and he gets 10% defense and 5% attack for every attack received, and it can stack up to 3 times. So what changed here is that he can stack the buffs faster. Instead of having to receive 6 attacks, he can just stack them when he receives 3 attacks. Okay, same thing, it will be 30% defense in total, and in addition to that he will also get 5% attack each time, so they can stack up to 15% attack. Okay, also the last part of the passive, additionally he transfers his buffs to a random ally fighter. So whatever buffs he had, he can transfer them to another ally fighter. So that's pretty much a nice addition for the passive. Okay, now moving to his minor skill, or his fourth gate, only like small addition, he can recover HP which is worth 3 times of his own defense instead of 2 times, and instead of just dispelling the front target buff, he can steal them, so he can just take them for himself instead of just dispelling them. Okay, now lastly, his sixth gate, or his water element, or his smacks. So also he can transfer own debuff to one of the targets, so whatever debuffs he had, he will transfer them to one of the targets, and also he will increase on 30% damage instead of 20%, and also absorbs 10% of the confused attacker's current HP. So when he confuses a target, he will absorb 10% HP of that target. Okay, that's an addition. And he will also deal 3 times more damage depending on his defense instead of 2 times. So as we can see, always an addition of the stats, or of the buffs made. So that's pretty much a nice addition.
Now, lastly, they added a nice feature here in the app, which is the elements or the gate partners. So now we can check who are the gate partners for every fighter. So for Magaki, the gate partners are Iori, Orochi, and Rugal. Now, his gate partners are quite easy to unlock, especially that Orochi and Rugal are farmable now, because you know Orochi can be farmable from Peak Battle Store and Rugal from Loot Battle Store. So you need up to unlock up to their second gate in order to activate Magaki's smacks, or the sixth element. So that would be pretty much easy for an API 15 to get him to smacks. Okay, it might need some time, but it's still a nice way. Okay guys, so that's it for the app, for the gates. Now we're gonna go back to the game to talk about more advanced stuff about him.
Okay guys, so we're back in the game to talk about Magaki's placement in the team and in which teams he can perform well. Well, first now, because he's a tank, he should definitely be at the front row, especially because he is very, very tanky. Okay, so probably you want to put him at the front row, and for esoterics you can give him, of course, tank HP would be the best choice for esoterics, and of course the resistance buttons. Now, for which teams does he perform well? I would say finally Wildbird Genesis teams will have their comeback, because they were kind of lacking some good Wildbird fighters. I mean, most Wildbird teams have been using fighters like Orochi Chris, like Orochi Shermie up to this point. So Magaki kind of can replace Orochi Shermie, especially because of the passive, and especially again because Wildbird Genesis teams didn't have any good tank. Okay, now so that's why pretty much Magaki will be seen in many or basically all Wildbird Genesis teams. Of course, he can fit in other teams, especially because he is a good tank by himself. Okay guys, but of course I was saying that he performed best in Wildbird Genesis. Of course, again, 4 souls, but I'm not gonna mention 4 souls every time because basically any fighter can fit in a 4 souls. Now, lastly, just wanted to say something about the runes. Now, which rune set? Now, since we got runes in global, so some people might be wondering which runes should be good for Magaki. Okay, now, considering Magaki is a very tanky tank, I would say Heart of Thorns can be very nice on him, because as you can see, when opponents attack him, he will recover some HP back. So he kind of receives low attack usually, or low damage, so he will heal more than he lose HP. So that's kind of like a nice rune to give for the tankiest tanks. Okay, now pretty much you can go Heart of Thorns, or you can go for something like Protector. Now Protector is usually given for the ones that can block a lot. Now Magaki has a nice block rate, not very high, but it's also good considering he's a tank, so Protector might be another option. But my personal opinion might be Heart of Thorns as the best rune set for him. Okay guys, so that was pretty much everything that you need to know for Magaki. Good luck guys in the draw, I hope you get him, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace out.